Welcome everybody to Recovery TV Live. In this episode, we are going to discuss what it means to survive the holidays following the discovery of a betrayal trauma like sex addiction or infidelity. So don't go anywhere. Greetings everyone, welcome to Recovery TV Live. I'm your host Josh Nichols. I'm a licensed therapist and a betrayal trauma and relationship expert in the field of mental health and recovery, and I'm here with my guest host Hannah Holcomb, who is obviously subbing for Carrie Kiger. And Hannah is here for a very specific reason, because she is also going to talk about some of the challenges that families, or parents in particular, because her specialty as a therapist candidate is in kids and families.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today, Josh.
It's good to have you. And so what we've sat here and chatted about just a little bit is that we're just basically going to have a discussion. And if you're tuning into this, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, we just ask you to like our page or subscribe to our channel. And you are welcome to submit questions. But just remember that this is not an anonymous platform, so this is public. And but you are welcome to submit those questions if that's what you would like to do. And we may or may not be able to address those on this episode, but we definitely like to read those so that in future episodes it can give us some things to consider and discuss. And so again, we are here to talk about surviving the holidays following betrayal or betrayal trauma. And most of what we're talking about when people refer to betrayal trauma is the discovery of sex addiction in their partner, or an act or multiple acts of infidelity in its various forms. And the holiday season is a season where we are expected to be joyful, to be cheerful. You know, we're putting our Christmas lights up and everybody's gearing up for all the different events. My wife and I just sat down the other day. It's like, hey, what are some of the things that we want to do? So we pulled up, as everybody does today, I'm sure, Facebook events. Started going through all the different Facebook events in our area to see if there's certain things that we want to involve ourselves in, and to experience that. And then, of course, next week we got Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really hard question to wrestle with, right? Like, how do we experience that type of loss or grief, or oftentimes like sadness or even anger during those times when people are supposed to be celebrating, when you're supposed to be going to see Christmas lights and baking Christmas cookies. How do you wrestle with those really hard negative feelings while others around you are celebrating? Right.
And I think, Hannah brings up a couple key words that I tend to fixate on. So even when I'm working with clients, This too. When I hear the words supposed to or should have, and often what I tell people during this time of, because it really is, it's a time of grief and loss, which basically means it's a time of transition in a very big and difficult way, that you've got to get the words supposed to and should have out of your vocabulary for a period of time at least. Yeah. Because so if you're catching yourself saying, like you just said, like, we're supposed to be happy right now, or Thanksgiving's next week, and you're going to sit around a turkey, and you're supposed to be thankful, and that's a cultural expectation, and you just got to give yourself room to not be those things right now, because your situation doesn't call for that right now. But culture, it's hard because the culture is working against you, right?
Absolutely. Every Hallmark movie you're going to watch is going to tell you we're supposed to have this perfect holiday plot line with the perfect happy ending, but really that's not most people's reality. That's not our real life. Yeah.
Gremlins might be more up your alley for the holiday season, because well, I want to start with just talking with you about parents first. Let's start with there, and then we'll move into kind of my arena, which is the partners in the couple couple recovery. and in your arena is more the kids and parenting and things like that. So, because it's definitely a different ball game when you have kids involved, right? Because parents, we don't want our kids to suffer our problems, and we don't want them to miss out on a single holiday because of the crap that adults are doing. So would you anticipate it might be like for a parent right now going through this, and the holidays are coming up, yet they're hurting and they're needing healing, yet they don't want their children to suffer the loss of the typical expected holiday season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think parents, we have this immense responsibility that we get to create the narrative for our own children, right? But that can be really terrifying, that we have this role in what their childhood memories are going to be, but it's also can be such a privilege that we get to play a part. What do we want them to look back on and think and feel? So I think just the gift of presence with your child. It doesn't have to be something big, especially if you are suffering those really hard feelings, grief or sadness or loss. Sometimes those really big things can be hard to do, but something so simple as spending quality time with your child, where we're putting away the phone, we're not scrolling social media, the phone's away. For a little kid, that might look like playing on the floor with them, doing something that they really value, or for an older kid, maybe letting them pick out a movie, drinking hot chocolate together, something that can connect you, that they're gonna feel like, maybe my caregiver or my mom or my dad, whoever is going through a really hard time, but they're still here with me. They're still here for me.
So, what do you recommend, or what would be the reasonable expectation of sharing your hurt with your children? And I know it'll be different based on developmental levels, but in terms of is it okay for a parent to let their kids see them sad during the holiday seasons, or maybe at Thanksgiving they don't appear to be as thankful? Like what's the line parents have to walk there?
Yeah. I think, absolutely. That's so important for parents to allow their children to see, I am sad, but I'm still going to be here with you. And it's validating. We can have sad feelings. We can have hard feelings. And how do we create, those little moments of joy in the midst of the suffering, or those little glimpses of happiness in the midst of the chaos you're experiencing? So I definitely think, and with age, with the child's age, of course, sharing that what would be appropriate for them developmentally and cognitively, but absolutely letting your kids see that, even if you're crying, hey, I feel sad, this is a hard time, but it's okay to have sad feelings, it's okay to cry.
And I think because of the developmental things going on, like it really is hard for me, and I don't think this is because I'm a therapist. I think it's because I understand more as a therapist the complexities of these types of situations. So it really is hard for me to see how people are trying to navigate this way of existence without a professional helping them. I mean, it's got to be excruciating, and that's why, like, sometimes you might experience some hesitancy from us in our answers, or some vagueness, because it would be dependent upon the developmental levels of your child, and trying to create a balance of being present with them and connected with them and creating something special with them, but then also allowing the authenticity of yourself and your pain to show up in a way that's developmentally appropriate, right?
Yeah. So, and trying to model that for your kids, right? Like you said, it's really complex and going to vary for every situation, but trying to get them to see that, okay, I can have a hard feeling, but I can still try to coexist with these happy feelings. Both can exist at the same time, and trying to model that for our kids so that when they grow up to be adults, they can go, okay, I can have both of these feelings, and my caregiver or my mom or my dad, they showed me how to have this and to not just stuff it down.
Right.
So
yeah, I think that's a really important point too, because I know all of the parents that are out there watching this, like the the millions of people that are watching this episode right now in this moment, and there are asking the question of, or dealing with this idea of like, but I don't want my kids to suffer this loss, or to suffer or to miss a holiday in the ways that we normally would do it, because of, you know, something that was definitely completely out of the kids' control, is out of the control of the other parent usually, as well, but definitely out of the kids' control.
Right.
And the thing that I would say to that is that it's okay for things to be different for your kids during the holidays, and it's okay that that's sad. You know, so like some families are dealing with losses of people, you know, through illness or death, moving. Some families' financial situations aren't the same, and the kids aren't getting the level of presents normally would, and it's different, and it's hard, and it's sad, and it's okay.
Yeah. And I think, like you even mentioned, the loss of a loved one, or even in the example of betrayal trauma, when we acknowledge that and even talk about it, that can help your child actually begin to heal from that loss when we talk about it, instead of it just being something that's not spoken, that's not talked about, which kind of tends to create some shame or some questions they might have, but then they don't feel like they can talk to you about it. So really discussing that of, you know, if you have lost someone, talk about that person, maybe name some memories you've had with them, so that they can still kind of be included in that when it comes to like the loss of a loved one.
Absolutely. And betrayal trauma is a little bit different in terms of, you know, being very careful about what you're disclosing to your kids. In fact, again, getting, you know, consulting with a therapist that knows kind of how to navigate this arena for kind of best practices, basically, on how to do this part. But, you know, but the thing that is true, whether it's loss of a family member, loss of a job, or there's loss of the family functioning as you have known it because of this betrayal, the universal truth is that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to let them see you be sad, as long as you're not asking them to take care of you.
Right. I was just about to say that, especially with kids and tendency when they're older, that preteen to teenage years, we have to be really careful as parents, right, not to just dump all of that on them. There's this line of, let's share in a healthy way that we're sad, but it's not their job to take care of us or for them to feel like they have to provide for us emotionally. We need to reach out for professional help for that. Right.
And also to your support system.
Yes.
I mean, you need good support. Like, and a therapist is not it. Like, that's going to be a place that you can go to learn how, and someone help you professionally navigate it. But a good therapist, I would think, would say, like, we got to have a good support system, people that you can lean on during this time that are just there for you and not there to professionally help you navigate, right?
Yeah, and like you said, with betrayal trauma specifically, you don't want to share too much with your children. You need a support system that you can confide in to share those more adult appropriate topics that are not going to be geared for what you can share with your children.
Right. And I know that we all want to protect our kids from the harms and the dangers of this world, but that's really an impossible task. I think we're trying to prolong it and pace it as much as we can. But the reality is, if we go back to kind of our main objective as parents, our job is to prepare these kids for the world. And so therefore we got to play the long game. And one of the positive things, or let me say it this way, one of the opportunities that comes with this experience is that one day, whether it's in the near future or in the distant future, your children are going to experience a holiday season that's difficult. And they need a point of reference. and this can be that opportunity to give them a point of reference of this is how you do it.
Yeah.
You talked about modeling.
Yes, absolutely. It's inevitable at some point in their life experience into their adulthood. They will navigate what does it look like to be at Thanksgiving and feel this deep sadness, or what does it look like to be at Christmas and my family system doesn't look like how I wanted it or how I dreamed it to be. And when they reflect back to this moment that they're currently experiencing with their family, we as caregivers have that opportunity to go, okay, we can model for them how we want them to be able to grow from that and navigate that. Right. So, or on the alternative, we can stuff it all down and not recognize it, and then they grow up with trying to figure it out on their own and not having a sense of that. Right.
Yeah, and so I'll make sure, as I always say in all my videos, to put links in the description of the video, so to therapist directories where you can find therapists in your area, because we don't want you to think that there's a magical answer, that sometimes your kids are really suffering, you're really suffering, and you might definitely going to need somebody to, I think most of the time, to help you navigate through this time. But sometimes the kids need a little bit of help too, and that's why we have people like Hannah at our place that can put that focus on families and children, and they have a really special and unique way of guiding kids and families and to do that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and absolutely we can. I do play therapy with kids, and it's a really safe way for kids to be able to express those emotions and naturally do it. And so if you feel like your child is struggling, that's a great way. We have amazing therapists here that also do play therapy.
Right. And like I said, and the link to our place is also in the description, but we just want people to get out there and find somebody in your area. So the therapist directories, a lot of people don't even know they exist, but most therapists are on them, in some of the more popular ones, like Psychology Today, for example. But let's talk a little bit now about the couple.
Okay.
And so it's challenging still, right? We got this cultural expectation of the holiday season, and I don't know if you ever studied in Pauline Boss, who came up with the concept of ambiguous loss. And so ambiguous loss is a very complicated form of loss, and in some ways considered harder than an actual loss or a non-ambiguous loss. So it's basically like you lose something, but there's nothing tangible that's telling you lost something. So like if somebody passes away, they were here, they weren't, now they're not here, I can go to their funeral and see that this person has passed, and they have a grave site, and there's just all these things that we have in our culture that helps our brains, right? So like that's why we have funerals, so that it helps our brains transition, understand that this loss happened, this was a permanent thing, and now we have to learn how to navigate life without this person, right? But ambiguous loss is like, I just lost my marriage, yet my partner is still right here, and I still have a marriage license, and I still wear a wedding ring, and but yet I lost something, and the world around you can't see what you lost.
Yeah, that can. If people are looking for like, okay, I'm trying to understand that women who have had miscarriages often face that type of ambiguous loss. I don't necessarily have a physical thing that I lost that I can have a funeral, and sometimes they haven't even shared that joy or their hope or their dream with their families, but they have this very ambiguous loss that they can't quite describe or have that tangible experience.
Yeah, and I actually think with women, it's not that this was a segment about miscarriages and things, but I think it goes to the point that women often, it's less ambiguous for women because they were carrying the baby, so they can feel their bodies changing. And so it's still somewhat ambiguous because they didn't see the baby, they didn't hold the baby in their arm or nurse the baby, things like that. But it is a lot less because the baby grows in their body. But for partners, it's very ambiguous, and especially for the world around them, you know. And people often don't know how to respond to that, and so you lost a child, but you don't get time off of work,
right?
You know, you don't get meals made for you,
Right.
you know, or cards. I mean, you might get some, but it's just not something that happens regularly, right?
Yeah.
So betrayal, you know, discovering that your partner has been unfaithful one time, multiple times, discovering it might be sex addiction or some form of sexual compulsive behavior, it falls into that category of ambiguous loss, and then everybody around you is expecting you to go through the holidays, just like, you know, with this expectation of Thanksgiving, cheer, joy, and you're not feeling it because you're not supposed to feel it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your body and your mind has been seriously injured, and you need healing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, similar. Yeah, you were probably grieving what you once had, what you once knew.
Absolutely.
So, there's intense grief when you can't really, no one else can probably see or label it as that as you are feeling it.
And it's an overwhelming grief too, by the way. So like, it'd be more equivalent to, you know, finding out, you know, a loved one who was perfectly healthy and involved in your life and you're super close to pass away all of a sudden, versus a loved one who was elderly and had cancer and you're going through chemo, and it's still sad and you still work that transition, but it's a little bit, the brain has a little bit easier time understanding what's happening. But when it's abrupt like that, like, so I mean, it's I say this a lot, like, it's one of the most overwhelming experiences for a partner to have, that in one moment's time, like one piece of information, my world went from making sense and being safe to not making sense at all and being extremely dangerous.
Right.
You know, it's almost like out of a movie when someone's, you know, living in some kind of world where there's been some kind of spell cast on the world and the spell's removed, and then all of a sudden you see the world kind of pan into darkness, right?
Yeah, what I once knew is no longer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's often what I think about when I think about what partners are going through. So it's a very overwhelming experience, and I think, you know, what we talk about with our partners here who are going through that is that you got to make room for your grief. You got to make room for your hurt. It's probably going to be uncomfortable and unsettling for some people in your life that don't understand. Sometimes they don't even know yet what's going on. And you're just going to have to let them be uncomfortable because you need this for yourself to do this. So you might not want to go to 3 Thanksgiving meals on Thanksgiving. You know, you might not to participate in the everybody say what you're thankful for as we go around the room, because people who've experienced betrayal trauma, they're just not feeling very thankful in that moment. That's okay. It's just countercultural, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're going, like we often talk about people going on vacation, like vacation is something that people, our culture is like, you got to go and you got to enjoy yourself. And so I often will hear partners say, like, I don't want to go on vacation and ruin vacation because I was a mess. I was like, I would rather be crying on a hammock in Hawaii than crying on my couch in Oklahoma. You know, I mean, you're not ruining vacation. Like, you're making room for your body to experience what it needs to experience in that moment. And that you just got to make room for it. And however that would be different to each individual, which again is why having somebody help you navigate it can be really helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
and it probably might not look like a vacation. Like, maybe not everyone can take a vacation, but even saying, I may need to just take this day off work and allow myself to cry and to feel this sad, and whatever that looks like. Yeah, like you said, crying on a hammock at the beach is a lot easier, or crying at home might be easier than having to show up to work and pretend things are fine when they're not fine. Exactly.
And of course, this is a lot easier said than done. So, you got to work also hard. You got to work hard at not being hard on yourself as you're trying to navigate these murky waters.
Yeah.
Right. For a lot of people who've never experienced something like this.
And navigating that grief, if you don't have kids, I think can tend to be a little easier, right? Because when you are driving in the car, you may be able to just cry or scream or do whatever. But then when you have kids, where that once used to be a time you could just kind of show your emotions, now you got kids in the car, you're still trying to kind of put on that face for them. And so it complicates things as you are a parent and how to navigate that. So we definitely understand that too. It'll look different if you have kids. What are the ages of your kids?
Absolutely.
So
and we could keep talking about this forever. And so we are going to have to wrap this segment up. But I have a fun game that we can play.
Oh, okay.
That I've not prepared Hannah for.
Oh,
I just thought of it. I'm going to recap what I heard you say.
Okay.
Like basically the cliff notes of what I heard Hannah say about parents and who are going through the holiday season after discovery of a betrayal trauma, and then you can recap what you heard me say. So
is this a game or a test? I feel like it's more of a test. How well I was listening. Yeah, you knew this was
a game
coming.
For me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So parents. The first thing is that it's okay to be sad. So you said making sure you have that time of connection with your kids and that presence with your kids, but also reserving some time to let your body and your mind experience what it needs to experience. Support, having a good support system, and self-care. Basically making time for yourself to tend to what you need. So
yeah, you did well. You did good with that game. Josh, I heard you say when you are experiencing that betrayal trauma is to, one, same thing, allow yourself to be sad, and that might look like setting a boundary with your families. You may have to say, I'm not coming to all 3 Thanksgivings, or whatever that looks like for you, setting that boundary within the holiday season so you can kind of protect your own self. And then that there is an ambiguous loss, and it's not going to be as easy to describe to people, so even more of a reason why you need that support system to lean on during that time. And then create that space, whether it's a vacation, taking time off work, confiding in friends, therapist. It'll look very different for every person because it's complex, but finding what that support looks like for you.
Right. Yeah, I thought you did pretty good. Good job. For being put on the spot.
Yeah, thank you.
Put on the spot. And so, but we appreciate those of you that have watched this live and those of you that watch the rebroadcast of it. We hope that the information that you get from these segments is informative to in some way or helpful, and that we can continue to serve as a resource for you. So please keep tuning in to Recovery TV Live. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Instagram, our TikTok. All that's linked. All that's in the description of this video. And on YouTube, you can even click the bell to be notified when more videos are posted. So when we go live on YouTube or we post a video that's not a live video, it'll notify you that it's up there and ready for you to watch. And so we appreciate that support, and we hope to see you back here next time.